Good morning slash afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Ralphs. I'm the head coach here at the Lawn Care CEO. Thanks for joining us for our webinar today, Lawn Care Business Made Simple. I appreciate that you're here, especially in the middle of the production season. I know things are chaotic. I know things get busy right around this time of year. So thank you for attending. Hopefully, we're going to make it worth your while and hopefully super transformative. And we'll tell a few stories about how this kind of concept can be. You're in the right place if you're a lawn care business owner and your company's making somewhere between 0 and $5 million in revenue. You're in the right place if you're wanting your business to scale and grow. At the core of what we're going to talk about today is how do we scale? How do we get bigger? How do we turn this into go from one truck to 10 trucks to 20 trucks and beyond? And so that's what we're going to be covering today. Hopefully that's helpful to you. All right, so we're going to dig right in. I think it's probably good if I just introduce myself very briefly. This is me. As you can see, I have 5 kids, most of them on purpose, and they're a big part of my life. But it was about this time of my life where things were chaotic. By the way, in case you didn't count all 5, there's one up here who's my ray of sunshine, and one down here is getting crushed under the weight of family bliss. But it was about that time that I joined a company called Infusionsoft. And Infusionsoft was all-in-one sales and marketing software for small business. Think Service Autopilot. And I didn't know it at the time, but this was an incredibly run company. They were a top 20 great place to work. They were Inc. 500, 5,000 lists. They were growing fast. In fact, one venture capitalist would go on to say that Infusionsoft was one of the best run companies they'd seen since LinkedIn. It was incredible. And I was a sponge learning how these guys ran just an incredible company. And Infusionsoft was like a precursor to things like Service Autopilot, precursor to things like Jobber. They were this first all-in-one software for small business that did automations and blended your sales and your production services softwares together. Well, Clayton Mask, who's here on the left, he was one of the best CEOs I've ever encountered. Well, we started teaching other companies how to do this. So very similar to if you know of Jonathan Potoshnik's service, what was it? Academy is what he called it. If you know that one, right? Very similar to that. We started teaching how we run companies because all these small businesses were like, we love you. We want to be like you. How do we do that? And I started teaching that somewhere around 2013, 2012. One of the members of that group was a lawn care business. And later on, many years later, they looped me back into lawn care. And so for the last few years, I've been hanging out in lawn care. More on that in just a minute. The other person you need to know in order for you to understand who the lawn care CEO is this guy right here, circa 1996. He started a lawn care company called RDS Lawn Services and went through all the phases. He did all of the different things, Aaron Sutton Field. And, as many of you do, when you start, you become a little bit of a dancing monkey, right? Like anyone who has money in their hand, you will do whatever service that they can imagine, right? Pavers, yeah, we do pavers. Irrigation, oh, sure. I've been doing irrigation for years, right? Even though you've never done it before. So we just kind of figure it out because the name of the game is to stay in business, and we got to sell stuff to stay in business. And so because we don't have a clear system of getting new clients, we got to just take whatever we get, right? How many can relate by raise of hands? Any of you? Yeah, a few hands, right? So Christmas lights, you name it. Did a little bit of everything, including getting their own mascot. Very cool. Well, for Aaron, in a very similar time frame when I was starting at Infusionsoft, Aaron had an epiphany, and it came because he was so frustrated. He just lost a major commercial contract. And in his own words, he said, I would have sold my business for $10. I hated it that much. And so in a fume, right, that night, he goes to the internet and types in something like good lawn care business how to, right? He doesn't know what to do. And so much like you, he turned towards webinars, things like that. He was looking for something that would show him how to do it. And he came across this guy. Hopefully some of you know his name. His name's Jonathan Potoshnik. He was the founder of Service Autopilot, but also ran a lawn care mowing service called CityTurf. Well, and he had something very similar to the elite program we taught at Infusionsoft. He had what he called Service Autopilot's Academy. And Aaron, I think the cost was like $3,500. He signs up for this, puts it on a credit card, flies to Texas to sit in a room with Jonathan Potoshnik and learn what he did. And here was the epiphany. The epiphany was, holy cow, the secret is simple services, services I can replicate over and over and over and over again. And one of the reasons he was so enamored with Jonathan Potoshnik was literally during their conference, they're having a employment audit at his company, and Jonathan Potoshnik didn't take a phone call. He was like, "What?" Like his mind was blown. He's like, "How do I create a business that is so simple and so elegant and so well systematized and so well structured that I can just let it run, that it will just handle itself, right?" Um, as I forget what book it is, Built to Sell. That the idea is like build a company that's so valuable that everyone will want to buy it, but so well run that you'd never want to sell it. And Aaron caught that vision. He was like, "That's what I'm going to do." And so, literally in 2011, he did his last mowing work. He simplified his business to be fertilization weed control only. He sold off, he didn't even sell off his mowing clients. He literally just gave them away and sold off all of that equipment. With the $40,000 in equipment he sold, he was able to like invest in starting this thing, and he's never looked back since. And the reason he could start Lawn Care CEO is because, he didn't have anything else going on, right? He was still running RDS Lawn Care, but only had, 2 to 3 hours of responsibilities a week. And so we started the Lawn Care CEO in 2023. And since then, been working really, really hard to try to understand, how do we help lawn care business owners make it easier? How do we, our purpose is to help others do more good in the world. It's like, how do we help the do-gooders do gooder? And my heart is one that just simply like, man, I hate it when the good guy, the underdog, is getting beat up and torn apart. And so how do we bring forward the simplicity of lawn care business in this case? So hopefully you guys can go win. So that's who we are. That's what we're doing. And our whole goal today is to help you have the same moment that Aaron had, where you go, "Oh, I get it. I catch the epiphany of simplicity for scalability." Simplicity for scalability. Sound good? Everyone's with me? Nobody's left yet? All right. That's good news. All right. So that being said, coming from the outside in. So as I mentioned, I was in software. I wasn't in lawn care. And so coming from the outside in, over the last 3 years in studying lawn care business, this is what I've observed, and I think it's true, that effectively in lawn care, it's not just one business. There are actually three different types of business with variations of each. But the core business models, there are basically three, maybe four. I'll add a fourth. The first type of business model is project work. So hardscaping, design, build, landscape lighting, irrigation, if you're doing installation, not repair, are these big, heavy lift, one-time sales that bring in big revenue, but put your business at big risk. Because if you miss on a project that's $200,000, you can really miss, right? And so the first business, now some of you have businesses within a business. We'll get to that in a minute. But the first like type of service that we can offer is this project type of service. And the reason I'm calling it its own business is because it behaves differently than the other two types. And it has a unique challenge, it has a unique struggle that you have to overcome. It has a different way of selling, etc. So in the project work world, in order for us to build scalable in project, there's a core challenge that we have to overcome. And I don't think we think this through, especially when we're a solo operation or we're at the center of the project work. And that is, it is a talent game. Project work is a talent game, meaning in order for this to scale, I need more people that can design, sell, go on properties and work with clients, price correctly. Like I have to gather talent together in order for me to go work the project game. Now, this is honestly a little bit similar to commercial maintenance. Large scale commercial maintenance also is sort of a talent game, because you need these core account managers who are really talented and able to work with clients, handle problems, sell work, bid work correctly. So it's a talent game. You have to go be able to find those guys, and not just one. You have to be able to find three or four or five as you continue to scale. So for the project work, the challenge is talent. It's also a different way of acquiring customers. It's way more a sales game than it is even a marketing game for big project work, meaning I have to build a network. I have to like show up, shake hands, kiss babies. I have to meet contractors, find subcontractors, etc. You get the idea. Maintenance. Maintenance is mowing, small enhancement. That's the second type of business. And by the way, the core system project work needs is they have to get their job costing thing down pat, right? They have to really, really understand how to price the work and cost it correctly, or else they're going to be in trouble. Maintenance, mowing, small enhancement, you guys know it. The core challenge is staffing. Staffing. When you think about it, probably the easiest of all the businesses to sell. It's just a marketing, right? Door hangers, that kind of thing will get you to a core group of clients. But the challenge then becomes, how do I get the guys who want to do the work and who will do the work well? And then how do I retain them over time? And then how do I manage that staff to make sure that they're executing effectively, right? So it becomes a staffing management challenge. Project work is talent. Can I go find the good dudes to do it? And you could argue project also has the staffing challenge. So it does become a little more complex. But maintenance is a staffing challenge. So if you don't have a way of finding and hiring good guys, maintenance is going to be a hard slog for you. But if you do have a way of hiring and finding good guys, all right, maintenance is a good option for us as a business model. The the core systems for maintenance is routing and P for P, right? Performance-based pay. Got to figure out those systems in order for this to really take off and go where I want it to go. The final one is treatment. This would be fertilization, weed control, and pest control, those kind of businesses. And in that case, the core challenge is marketing, because those are the more competitive marketing areas, right? Lots of money, spending lots of big dollars to get client acquisition figured out. So the challenge here is, how do I acquire clients? So you've got to figure out how to really like get into the market and figure out how to acquire clients. So the challenge that all of my clients that I coach that are fertilization weed control is lead volume. How do I get leads? How do I get leads up? How do I get leads up? How do I get leads up? And the core systems you got to figure out is the wait list and the program, and to some degree the marketing stuff. And of course, this is a marketing, not a sales business. Now, the reason I bring all of this up is to just kind of like let it dawn on you why so many of you who are trying to run all three of these businesses are struggling. It's hard enough, you guys, to scale maintenance, for example. It's hard enough to scale maintenance, but in order for you to scale all three, that's at the same time, one guy, really, really difficult. I don't know if it's impossible. I've seen it done through just ridiculous effort, but I want you to kind of know what you're up against, right? You're up against building three separate businesses with different challenges, with different systems required for scale, and with different sales channels. Some of you even have different clientele, right? Some of you do commercial and residential. Some of you, right? So all of a sudden, we have all of this inherent complexity in the very business model we select. And so one of the things we've got to do in order for us to create scalable is we have to simplify the product line itself. So at the very foundation, we have to choose, ideally, I would encourage you to choose one business model. I've just shown you three different business models: project, maintenance, in fertilization, weed control, turf, that kind of thing. We got to figure out a way, we got to choose one and simplify. Too many of you are like this truck, hanging on by a thread, right? Trying to carry all of this chaos, all of this complexity, moving it forward. Now, I'll give you a couple of exceptions to the rule, but generally, your goal should be to really, really reduce the amount of systems and complexities that you're running. Let me give you a couple of examples. I already gave you the example of RDS. who went from full scale and dialed down simply to become a treatment company. And now that they were a treatment company, they could focus. They could focus on how do we go get clients? How do we get our core system, our really great program, right? Partner, this is why we partner with Harrell's, get a killer program put together so that I can treat lawns and my lawns can be slightly greener than my neighbor's lawns. I can figure out my CRM, build out all of the products and things in Service Autopilot. So it's very simple to sell. I have a very simple customer journey moving from one end to the other. And that's what allows us to scale. And in Aaron's case, it allowed him to kind of back out of the business because he's like, man, it just runs itself almost. Okay. A second example, though, and one of the things I want us to be clear about is that it's okay. You don't have to be Aaron's company. You can be other companies as well. One of our other coaches, Sam Guston at Troops Mowing, built a maintenance company and he figured out P4P and he's got this awesome team and he's paying them a really high hourly rate. And he's got a great leader and manager who's just like elevating these guys and they are humming and hustling and they're just doing mowing, right? Just mow, blow, and go, a few simple services. That's it. My favorite example maybe of this idea was like get clear about what business you're running is my friends at Lifestyle Outdoor near Kansas City, Missouri. So they honestly, Justin, their owner, got together. When he started his business, he said, we're going to be HOA only, high end HOA only. He says, that's our business and we're going to stick to it. Well, what happened when he got really clear and focused on his business model? He grew his business $1 million a year every year for the last 5 years, going into 6. Does that make sense? So the goal is to get really, really clear about the product line, to go from this, by the way, first lawn care business I pulled up, hopefully they're not on the call today. I saw this is their service line. By the way, it wasn't even all of it. There's also pavers and hardscaping. Can you see how chaotic this business likely is? How many different systems, how many different client bases, how many different projects my guys would have to be trained on, how many different teams and divisions I'd have to create in order to manage all of this work. And by the way, am I more likely as a client to go to this company that does all the things, or am I more likely to go to an artificial turf company that just does turf? Think about it, right? And so the goal is like this business, I can already tell you, has to either be really big, meaning there's leaders in charge. Like if there was a leader in charge of maintenance, a leader in charge of landscape rock and pavers and hardscaping, like maybe we could pull it off. We can run multiple businesses, but probably not one guy, right? My partner Aaron would always say, hey, I see you have a bunch of different businesses within your business. Do you have $250,000 or $300,000 a year to pay leaders for each one of those divisions? If not, we need to simplify. So as you're thinking about your business and you're analyzing, all right, should I simplify? And if so, how should I simplify? Here are a couple of questions I think are helpful. Number one is the one I already presented. Can I handle the key challenges of that business model? You know, some of you are geared to do project or commercial work because you have a network of really talented guys that you know you could pull in to go do quoting, estimating, account management kind of work, designing maybe. Some of you are ideally suited because of your network. You're like, I could go find guys to do the work. You're maybe more maintenance, right? Manage those guys. Or maybe, right, you're like, I'm a little bit more skilled and think I could be a little bit more savvy around fertilization. We control the marketing side. I could go figure that out. So that's the question. First question I would ask is, what am I good at? And what do I want to spend, or maybe what problems do I want to go figure out? Second question is, can it be profitable, a profitable business in my market? So market dynamics are a factor here. So if I'm in a super small market, like small town USA, I might need to have a more complex business model versus big cities. I'm able to like niche down and maybe get a little bit more niched. So we're going to ask, hey, can I charge the prices I need to charge in the model that I need to charge it in order for me to get to the market? And then finally, the question I alluded to earlier is, do I have the leadership to scale multiple business models? So if maybe you and a partner are working in the business, or you have two really, really good guys, great, talented leader-like guys, We maybe assign one of them to be in charge of the mowing division, one of them to be in charge of the turf division, one of them to be in charge of the small projects. Now, this is still going to create complexity on the back end, but at very least, I have somebody that's solving problems in each one of those areas. But they have to be kind of executive level talent in order for me to feel that way. The last one is what's currently working in my business, right? What is profitable in my business right now? I remember chatting with one guy who had two businesses in his business. The first business he had in his business was a turf division where he was doing fertilization, weed control, and aeration overseeding. And then the second business within his business was he was doing high end golf course installation, golf course green installations. Well, definitely two businesses. And so I was encouraging simplicity. And I said, well, tell me what's working. Are your golf courses profitable? Golf course greens profitable? Is your turf division profitable? Well, what we came to find out is that him doing those kind of custom, golf course green installations, the cost of goods on that was like north of 80%. So really was almost losing money on that. And I said, man, this is going to be really easy for us to simplify because guess what we can do? We can just cut out that division, which is essentially paying, the other division, the turf division is paying for that division. We just cut that out. We're more profitable. We make more money. So super simple, right? So again, you want to ask yourself, what is actually working? Meaning, what's the simpler part? And I've seen this over and over again, where there will be one business within the business that's taking all of the attention, but not making any, but the other business is making all of the money. This is what Aaron noticed. He said, man, mowing and maintenance is taking all of my attention and time, and turf and fertilization weed control is making all the money. So why am I giving attention to the business within the business that isn't making me the money? Make sense? And so we want to be clear about, is it currently profitable? What's currently working in the business? And then let's double down on what's working. Now, little warning label on the box. Going from a complex product line to a simple product line is not without its risks, right? If I'm a company and I'm like, yes, love the idea, Dan. I want to be a simple service mowing company. That's the business I want to grow. I feel like I can get staff. But right now, half of my revenue is in projects. It may be that we have to hang on to projects for a little while so that our revenue doesn't just tank, right? So that I can pay the bills. So I guess I'm just saying, be conscientious, right? Don't go doing dramatic things. Be smart about it. The next number is run a budget, understand your numbers, particularly those that are cost of goods, those kind of P&L numbers for each one of your divisions, businesses within a business. So you understand the ramifications of what's about to happen. And then run a budget, run the forecast, run the projections so you can go, yeah, I feel safe, like Aaron did, cutting out a big chunk of my business, or it's going to take me a year or two to make that transition. Okay. So usually slow, not fast, run the budget, know your numbers so that we're ready to go. And then, right, we take whatever portion of the business we're no longer doing. If we're still receiving leads for that, we refer those leads, or we just give away that portion of the business to a good referral partner that might be giving us the other business that we're looking for. And then we sell the business, a portion of the business if there's value there. I know this feels crazy, but it's a pretty common theme in our business coaching at Lawn Care CEO for us to see a business that's suffering, where we line up all of the different divisions. Really, I'm calling them businesses within a business. We line up all the divisions and we say, listen, without this division, we get simpler and more profitable. It's really common. And so, I mean, if you want to sit down with us, I put a slide in here because I'm like, some of you are probably like thinking this through in a serious way. And if you are, it's probably good to chat with a coach. And I promise we will only try to sell you something a little bit, but our main goal is we just don't want anyone to take this information and apply it in a way that might be damaging. So because our coaches have seen these a few times, feel free. This is a 90-day strategy call that would basically where we can unpack the transition for you and help give you recommendations there. And then if we can help do that implementation, please let us know. But it's a 90-minute call, not a 90-minute call, 30-minute call. We're not giving away that much time. Hundreds of dollars in value. And so at very least, if you're thinking this through, worth chatting with an expert who's maybe done it a few times. So scan the QR code or visit lawncareceo.com/free call to take advantage of that. I'll leave that up for 2 seconds to make sure we're rolling. So, step one, you got to pick a business model that is simple. And the simpler the business model is, the better. That will scale within your market and that you're capable of solving the core business challenge, whether it's marketing, staffing and management, or talent, finding the talent. Okay. All right. Step two. Even with once we've narrowed our product line. So let's imagine if we're like Aaron, we said, hey, we're getting rid of all mowing and project enhancement work. We're just doing fertilization weed control. I'm going to pick my business. I'm going to get really good at that one business. Even then, right? It's a complex thing to run that business. When I first came into the lawn care space, I was like, how do I organize all this in my mind? This is what I came up with, is I came up with what I call my 6 core business systems. Because in order for us to have a healthy, scalable system, we need to be able to pump clients through our system, through our customer journey. Eliyahu Goldratt, the author of The Goal, he called it, the goal is not to focus on, capacity, it's throughput. How many people can we get through our system? How many times can we bill? Like, how do we get our billing done? How quickly can we get that through the pipe? Customer service, how many phone calls can we take from clients? And how quickly can we dispatch, solve their problem? And how can we pump a bunch of people through our system as quickly as many as we can? How can I take on 50 sales calls, quote, estimate, invoice, and get them scheduled? How quickly can we move that through the system? And so the goal is to really be able to build systems that are simple enough that, first of all, the closer we can get to anyone can do it, the better. And the fewer steps, the easier it is to train and help someone learn those steps along the way. So in order to get to a system, the first one is to have a system, right? So I posted this picture because even those of you who grew up playing backyard football, literally we would kneel down a little huddle, right? And you'd write in the dirt your little plan of, all right, you go out to the right and you go out to the left and I'll run up the middle. Like, we would create a little plan, right? We create a little play. Some of you, no, certainly none of you, but some of you may not have even that much of a plan when it comes to what you're doing in your business. And so the goal is to document and write down the system. I always tell people, you can't edit a system that isn't written down. We can't simplify a system or analyze a system until it's on paper. And so one of the biggest challenges is, all right, how do we want to optimize this system for throughput? I need to have it in front of me. I'm a visual learner. I need to see the system first, document it, because also I can't delegate it until I've documented it. And so we need to document it. I'm going to do a little aside here. I won't take too long on this, but I want to give you just a hack on designing and building systems that, to me, it's new, but it's also just revolutionary. Okay. And it's using AI to build those systems. If you haven't discovered AI as a tool to help you build systems in your business, this was worth the price of admission. I'm telling you, it will change your business life. It is going to change business lives. We're finally to the point where anyone who doesn't have their systems written down, it's just lazy, right? It's so easy to do. And so here's what I would do. I'm going to actually do it. We'll demonstrate for you. This is Claude.ai. So Claude's my new favorite. I used to use ChatGPT. Everyone's got their own favorites. This is my favorite currently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dictate to Claude a system. So let's imagine that I'm putting together my system for morning rollout with my team. Claude, what I want you to do is I want you to ask me all the questions that you need to know to help me put together a simple 5 to 7 step rollout for my lawn care, fertilization, and weed control business only. I'm a solo operator with 1 truck and I have about 200 clients. Ask me any other contextual questions you need to know and put together my system. So literally, I just say it out loud to Claude. It records it, dictates it, and now Claude's going to get to work on creating the system. So this is, by the way, this is not me pre-planning anything. It's going to now ask me a bunch of questions, and I'm going to answer those questions one at a time. Yeah, we start at 7 o'clock at our shop. I try to clock in by 7 o'clock, and then we have a little huddle where I make sure I understand my route for the day. Yes, we're currently using Service Autopilot to route our schedule, but I usually try to do that the night before. Each morning, I'm either going to be loading a spreader sprayer, a backpack sprayer. I'll pre-mix the chemicals in the morning as well. So I'll mix them that morning. Um, I have an automated system that notifies clients before I'm coming. I'll stop there. You get the idea, right? So it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. And then I'm just going to tell it what I do. So the first step is just document the way it currently works. Um, yeah, it takes me about 10 minutes to mix in the morning. And yes, I clock in to clock out of jobs on Service Autopilot day of. This is great. Notice the breakdown. All right. So it's going to be asking me a bunch of questions. So all I did is say, hey, help me make this thing for this particular portion of the system. And now it's asking kind of intuitive questions. I'm trying to get to the end here. Um, yes, I do a walk around. All right, and it's going to give me my morning rollout routine. Okay. So I know this sounds simple, but if you look at the morning rollout routine, night before, route your schedule in Service Autopilot, confirm stop order, flag any gate codes and access notes. Step two, clock in and route review. Clock in, pull up your SA route, know your first three stops cold before you touch anything else. Mix chemicals, mix for the day. This is a very simple but good system. Like it's okay, right? We now can edit. The goal is to have this happen the same way every time, over and over and over again. No surprises, same rhythm, same routine. There's enough chaos in our business from our clients to us, from the weather to us, from equipment breakdowns to us, that we don't need to add any complexity. We need to have it be kind of rhythmed, routined, rote every day, the same thing over and over. And I would start doing this, by the way, if I had one truck, two trucks, I would start with that kind of system rhythmed way of getting about things. Clear? So Claude is a tremendous tool, by the way, for us to be able to um, document systems. Okay. So the next thing I'll keep in mind when you're simplifying systems, avoid exceptions. I had somebody text me the other day, hey, Dan, should I accept cash sometimes? Like in very rare cases. The answer is no. No, we shouldn't. But as you're thinking about exceptions to the rule, well, what about? Well, what about? Well, what about? You build a system, you're like, well, what about this? What about that? As much as possible, we want to like trim off those little offshoots. We want to have it be just like we're trimming a tree, right? We want to have all of the energy go to the most important things that we need to do. And so, a couple of things you can think about when you have exceptions to the rule. Number one, can I just educate my client? Can we reset the customer's expectations? So, we had one company that I worked with where they would say, hey, we're going to let you know when we're coming and we'll wait for you to accept, right? So and then we need you to reply to approve that we can come that day. Right. Well, that was a really bad system because it created tons and tons of exceptions. Well, all we had to do is reset the customer's expectations. We just said, hey, we're going to message you to let you know we're coming. Please reply if it's not a good time. So instead of them having to confirm it, all they had to do, we were going to assume that they were going to receive the service. And so all of a sudden we cut off a ton of exceptions to the rule because we reset customer expectations. Next, can you delete it? I'm okay with, if you went to Aaron today and you said, "Hey, can I pay with cash or pay with a check?" He'd say no. And they'd say, "Well, I'm not going to do business with you." And he'd say, "Okay," because it's not worth it for him to have these few exceptions to the rule because he needs to maximize throughput. And every time he gets a check, that office person now is having to interrupt their day, drive to a bank, deposit the check, drive back, and he's got a 40 to 50-minute interruption, and it's just not worth it. Even if he's doing it once a week, it's like it's not worth it. I'd rather create this expectation, delete any clients that won't accept that. The other one is to delegate. Sometimes there are things in your business. So maybe you do irrigation repair work and you're like, I don't want to do installation, but it kind of feels like I should do installation. Just go find a great partner who does installation, have him pay you 20%, like mark it up 20% to your clients and say, "Hey, we don't do installation, but we have a company we really love. We recommend. We've worked on a lot of their systems and man, they have the fewest repairs." And you just delegate that whole part of the business. And you may still be making, for some of you, as much as you would have been doing it yourself. But at very least, we're simple, right? Very easy way to get that business out of our business. And then finally, can we adjust our system to account for that expectation? So if we can't change customer expectations, if we can't delete the customer, if I can't delegate it, well, now we need to systematize it. We need to figure out a way to break it down into its component parts and then be able to teach and train each one of those parts so that I can hire people to manage those exceptions. Okay. All right. This is good. So remember, our goal is to have fewer systems, right? Fewer systems because we have to train, manage, and update every system. There's this beautiful scenes. One of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington shows up with his playbook. I should have pulled this clip because it's great. And the defensive coordinator turns to Denzel and says, "Pretty thin playbook, coach." And he names the his style is like the running V or something. And he goes, "Flying V, 6 plays, run them over and over again. It's like Novocaine. Give it enough time and it always works," right? And that's the idea, right? We want to have pretty thin playbook because the simpler the playbook, the more we can execute with excellence. The simpler the playbook, the easier it is to onboard, train, and manage those processes or systems. And by the way, update them when they change. So pretty thin playbook, coach, is the idea. Obviously, just a quick caveat for those of you who don't have a CRM yet, get one. You need one. Our current kind of opinion about CRM, if you're wondering which CRM to get into, shoot me an email. It really depends on what service you're in. So which business you're trying to run, what's your core business? If your core business like mowing and simple services, probably Homeworks is a good starter. If your core business is fertilization weed control only, Spray is a good starter. If you're some mix of services, we like Service Autopilot. Jobber is also an option for simple. All of them have a level of complexity. And because again, our businesses can be complex. The thinner the playbook, the better your CRMs are going to work as well. So the fewer products we have in our CRM, the less chaos, less complexity there is. So moral of the story is once you do have a CRM, the CRM is going to allow you to automate systems, and automations are the simplest, right? When they just happen automatically. But even in our automations, you're going to find people out there that are going to want to give you very complex automations. And what I'm going to recommend is simple over complex when you're starting to automate systems or structures. Make sure they're simple enough that you understand them, and then only make them more complex if they're not meeting the results that you're looking for. Okay. Finally, simplify your numbers. This one's going to sound a little counterintuitive, but to me, it's maybe one of the most important things so that I can see the business clearly. We have two tools that we primarily utilize when our in our effort to see the business clearly. To me, business is more complex when we're operating in the dark, when we just can't see what's really going on in the business, when there are problems or pains, particularly cash flow pains, or particularly um, like where it feels like we're stalled. And that usually tracks back to cash flow, where I don't have any flexibility or ability to go buy new help or buy new, you know, go spend money on marketing or whatever. When we're stuck, I find that the very first thing you should do is get really clear about your numbers. You should have a KPI scorecard where you're tracking simple metrics, a few metrics. This is a good example, a good list, honestly: revenue, labor efficiency of some kind, number of complaints, lead volume, estimates accepted. What's happened for businesses when they get clear about these things and they start measuring them is all of a sudden their business comes into focus and they know where they should be trimming off complexity, right? Where they should be cutting out. And it also helps them to focus on what's the most important work to do. So I guess in some ways, it simplifies the to do list because I know where I should be focused. Now, for some of you, that this kind of numbers game is the complexity and it gets really confusing and I don't know where to find the reports and all that, or maybe your profit and loss isn't clean and clear. So if that's the case for you, this is really easy, you guys. This is going to be self-congratulatory, but lawncarebooks.com, it's super simple to get your profit and loss clean and clear. I'll do a little advertorial here. $97 is our lowest price point a month. Totally affordable for even for little guys. And then you're getting really crystal clear numbers, and that just makes everything easier to understand. And it makes it easier and simpler to make decisions. And then it just becomes kind of a numbers game and it simplifies our thought process and decision making. By the way, month of April, quick FYI, month of April, we're waiving the upfront cost. So there's like an upfront cleanup cost where you get you cleaned up to the beginning of the year. We're waiving all of that for any size company. So lawncarebooks.com, go get a free quote because this is one of the keys to simplifying. And maybe I should have put this one first, honestly, because at least for me, when I'm starting to look at a business, it's the first thing I look at. All right, what's going on? Let me see clearly what's happening in the business. And the numbers don't lie, they tell the truth. And that usually gives me clarity on what I need to do. So maybe the key isn't here simplicity, but it's clarity, and clarity leads to our ability to make things simple. All right, you guys. So three things. Thing one. Oh, by the way, another offer. Um, I only am showing this because if you want a copy of our KPI scorecard document, you can get one by just signing up for our DIY membership program. We're giving away a month free. So if you just want the KPI scorecard, jump in there, month free, cancel a month later. That's okay. But check it out. It's going to give you a ton of different ways to think about your business, make your business simpler. Again, to get that free month, it's coupon code HARRELS. Coupon code HARRELS. I'll leave that up for a minute. All of you should go check it out, very least. Um, so let me wrap up by kind of saying this. One of the biggest challenges in leadership is the ability to set, like I say this all the time, but it's like your number one responsibility as a leader of your business is to set the vision. It's the ability to see what we're really trying to build in the end, and then be able to draft the steps to make it in the direction of that vision. Building a really stellar business is like building a really great house. I don't know if you've ever built a house or hired a contractor to build a house before, but we go through some steps, right? Step one is we do an architectural drawing. Architectural drawing is like the pie in the sky. Man, if we could have it look that pretty, right? It's usually colorful and pretty and it's this beautiful looking thing, right? Well, start there. What do you want this business to look like 3 years from now? Like if you had your perfect scenario, what business would you go build? Well, from there, the architectural drawings get handed over to the draftsman. And the draftsman then puts in place the steps and stages of the business, including all of the little details. You know, how far away is the toilet from the sink? Every little detail. And then they can hand it to contractors to go build. So if you don't have that clarity in your mind right now, you need to. You need to get clear on that. Because if we don't know what we're trying to build, I think that's one of the root causes for the chaos that's created. I think if you can see clearly where we're going, then we can start to slowly but surely trim off everything that's not there. Michelangelo is famous for having said, when asked how he carved the David, he said, well, I saw the angel in the marble and just chipped away everything that wasn't that, right? He could see the vision so clearly that he just removed everything that wasn't this clear vision. So at the end of the day, the invitation is go make your business simple because simple is scalable. I'll repeat, simple is scalable. If we can help with any of this, please just schedule a call. Don't think about it anything more than that. Scan this code and just come on. We'll help you work through what a good plan would be and help you get started on this path. Once, whether it's identifying or really articulating what the vision looks like, or like specific details on how to move things forward, it's your call. You can use it however you like. But our goal is to give you like, all right, next 90 days, here's what we should be focused on. You guys, thank you so much for attending. I'm so grateful to have anyone show up to a webinar like this, much less the big group that we had today. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of this. I wish you the very best in this 2026 season. If there's anything we can do to help at Lawn Care CEO, please do. And I'll sign off as I always do. Go do more good.